All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is, The Story is Getting Worse, Not Better. New details revealed on Trump's assassination probe. Let's check it out.
In the meantime, we want to get you up to date on some chilling new video that appears to show the in the moments leading up to the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. This video seems to show the shooter walking outside the security perimeter before the former president took the stage.
I guess the main question here after seeing this video here, is this before or after the Secret Service already knew of him having something like a scope or a rangefinder, or is this before or in the middle, basically, when they already knew that he may be a threat and they're just allowing him to stand over there with, let me guess, a rangefinder in his pocket, a detonator, most likely also based off of another piece of video that you guys have encountered. When exactly is this video?
It could be part of the critical evidence that is allowing authorities to put together a tick-tock of what happened. And that timeline is raising even more questions about how this could have happened in the first place. In a briefing with FBI and Secret Service officials and Senate lawmakers, we are learning new details, including 62 minutes elapsed between the time the shooter was photographed as a suspicious person and when those shots were fired. Potentially even more shocking, Secret Service spotted the shooter 10 minutes before Donald Trump took the stage. I want to bring in former Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi, also an MSNBC national security analyst. What do you make of this new reporting, Frank?
Well, Chris, the story is getting worse, not better, and may continue to get worse. There was too much time elapsed between the time that law enforcement knew they had a suspicious person and then knew there was somebody on the roof and finally took action. And of course, that was a day late and $1 short. We're also looking increasingly at the possibility, Chris, and I emphasize possibility, that this weapon used by the shooter was pre-staged somewhere. The photos, the descriptions we're hearing of him being suspicious are not centered on possessing a weapon, but rather possessing a rangefinder. That could imply that he hid the weapon, and that would be consistent with the reporting that we know he visited the rally site days before the event. So now we get into questions of, was a protective sweep done of this building that was identified as a threat? Did anybody sweep it? Anybody look for weapons? We don't know, and we need to know. And increasingly, we're going to see calls for the Secret Service director to either resign or be fired.
And of course, no gun was seen. Nobody saw him walking around with a gun, as you well point out. But if you're charged with the security of the former president of the United States and candidate for president about to officially be the nominee, isn't a rangefinder, carrying around a rangefinder, enough to suggest to you we have to get this person immediately?
And guys, really quickly, based off of what the head of the Secret Service recently just said also, she said the buck stops there. It's her. So when she just said, should she resign or be fired, I think those are the only two options kind of going forward here. And also they need to reevaluate exactly who they're allowing to actually be on the immediate or the principal Secret Service agents that are there to protect the person that they're protecting, guys, right? Be very cautious with who you're putting there, make sure they all actually have the capability to be kind of tall and strong enough to basically do so, guys, because there definitely were a couple of issues that we saw actually on the video itself, right?
So yes, probably. The good news is law enforcement was searching for him. They lost him. Reportedly, a sniper lost him in his sights as he was scanning the crowd, knowing we're looking for this suspicious person. But also, I do have to point out two things quickly. One, very common at these events to spot a suspicious person. You want that to happen. You want people and police to say on their radios, this guy's bothering me. That happens all the time. With regard to the rangefinder, let's remember it's used by golfers. It's used by surveyors. It does not necessarily in and of itself mean you have a shooter.
We're also learning that the shooter visited the...
That's fair, but I mean, that person should going forward be a person of interest. Obviously, you should be looking at that person as that person, in fact, can do some type of harm, right, at all times.
Rally site in the days leading up to the attack. Now they're saying probably to scope it out. At what point do they have security or people who will be on the lookout for someone who might be suspicious in an area like that? Would they have been there days before?
That is. Oh, no, no, not days before. They don't for a rally. They don't typically post up until the day of the rally. They conduct their advance, and then they make plans to sweep. They'll have a dog or not. But the problem here is, again, it's all going to come down to that decision to put this high-risk building outside the Secret Service perimeter. That is the fatal flaw here.
Frank Figliuzzi, a lot of questions being raised by different pieces of information every day. Thank you for helping us to understand their significance.
Hey there.
Yeah, guys, I can definitely tell you right now, we're going to be running into a lot of brand new stories that are coming out kind of involving this case here. Are we done, Rand? Are we done? No. There were too many people there. A lot of people got a lot of footage there. Obviously, they were on their cameras, right, and their phones, and they were getting footage of the entire scene. I'm sure as the days progress, we're going to find more footage of this person walking around at some time, guys, right? But let's go ahead and jump into this next video. The name of the video is Detonation Device Found Near Trump's Shooter's Body. Let's do it.
We're now learning new details about the shooter and his parents' actions just hours before the Trump assassination attempt. Let's go to CB Cotton, who is live in Butler, Pennsylvania, with the latest details from the investigation. CB.
Hi, Emily. Well, as federal agencies and congressional committees demand answers, we're learning the shooter's parents called law enforcement on the day of the rally to say they couldn't find their son. We know they're cooperating with law enforcement, and this comes as a new photograph obtained by local station WPXI shows a detonator device found next to Thomas Matthew Crooks' body after the attempted assassination. Crooks had explosives inside his car, found parked near the rally, and making materials inside his home. The alarming photo raises questions about whether Crooks had other plans as he opened fire. Less than 200 yards away from the rally stage, while positioned on a rooftop, which the Secret Service says was within the perimeter delegated to local law enforcement. A federal source told me there was a local law enforcement presence inside the building the shooter was on top of, echoing what the Secret Service director stated during an ABC News interview. But now there are conflicting reports from local media who cite sources that say local officers were only positioned inside a nearby building. We know from federal sources Crooks was spotted acting suspicious before the rally, and several photos, including this one, were captured and exchanged among officers during about a 30-minute window before the Trump's family now reacting to what's being called a major security failure.
It is. It's like nothing more than a major security failure. They should have been more vigilant, excessively hyper-vigilant in this instance. You have someone you're supposed to protect in public with other rooftops that are surrounding the area. Pay attention, bro.
Just a major breach. And again, I don't want to be the guy doing conspiratorial. I'm sure plenty of people will. And I think, honestly, all of those questions are fair game because it is so ridiculous. It is so flagrant.
That's valid.
The New York Times is now reporting that the received several packages labeled hazardous material in the last several months. Emily.
Really?
Thank you, CB. Harris, I want to come to you on something because some of your commentary last hour struck me. You talked about the parents making contact with police, and you said we don't know the texture of that conversation or their concerns. Right. And I think that is so brilliant. It reminds me of when I was a supervisory attorney with the federal government. And the chief judge that I was supporting told me one day there's a fine line between homicide and we were talking about the context of employees that needed help in certain ways, and that the risk is sometimes much greater or much more outward than you might think in that moment. What are your thoughts about the dynamic and the parents and the warning here?
You know, they said that they were worried, and I think it's really important that we know what they were worried about. Were they worried that he had a Were they worried that he would use it on someone else? And what you point to, would he use it on himself? I don't know necessarily what they would call the police about if they knew perhaps he needed help.
Ooh.
I don't know how long they'd been looking for.
Guys, what she's saying here is extremely valid, right? Like, I mean, if he's been missing for like a couple hours and you call the police, that's a little weird, right? That means you've seen signs of there was definitely something wrong with your kid in the house. You should have most likely done something about that before he went out and did this level of thing, guys. All right?
For him and what they knew he had with him and all of that. But if you knew your kid took 100 rounds of ammunition and all the other things that the authorities have told us he had with him, he probably wasn't going to just kill himself. But we don't know, because the texture of what they called police about is not known. And until we know that, I don't think that we can jump to any conclusions about, well, did they give them a heads up that he was going to go plot to kill, a former president? But what we can say is this: something was wrong with Thomas Crooks. And
Obviously.
Thomas Crooks was missing. And his parents thought the something wrong and the missing part spelled trouble enough that the cops had to get involved.
Right, they called the cops.
And Lisa, let's focus on those local cops for a second, who are sort of, there's lots of happening online, lots of armchair quarterbacking. The sheriff of Butler County, however, comes out and says, look, if I'm interrupted talking about the shooter that Harris just mentioned, and I move my, you're going to have to reassess that whole situation. So yes, you can make a case that those two officers indeed saved the president's life.
Well, I think we've heard of a lot of excuses. And we know that a suspicious person was seen at 5:41 p.m. with a rangefinder and then was able to get shots off at 6:11 p.m. So how was he not stopped in that interim, in that period of time? How the heck did this happen is what we're all asking as Americans. But I mean, you've got a guy who for most of his adult life has been told that, President Trump is, it's not hard to see, the kind of environment that's created. But I think we've seen the best and the worst of America on July 13th. We saw the best with President Trump's response, reassuring America that we are good, that he is resilient, willing to take a bullet for this country. Americans saying, USA, helping their neighbor, helping each other at the event, standing strong. And the worst is government incompetence. This environment now where government doesn't seem to function. The Secret Service was outsmarted by a 20-year-old on a slanted slope roof. And
I mean, keep this in mind. The Secret Service is not operating at its peak potential, right? I mean, keep this in mind. They have to lower the the entry exams, basically, to allow other individuals in that could not pass the high level of entry that was there before. All right, so just keep this in mind here. They're not running at their peak capability, right?
then even if we learn more from the government, does anyone trust what they tell us?
So, Kaylee, speaking of excuses in the government, we have the director of the Secret Service who has pushed blame elsewhere, while many argue, look, the criticism should go to herself as she's deployed this 30 for 30 initiative that has maybe risked the caliber of the elite Secret Service.
Yes, let me draw a clear distinction. There were heroes in Secret Service that day. Those 7 agents who jumped on the president, heroes. They did their job. The counter sniper did his job. The leader of Secret Service, however, Kimberly Cheadle, why weren't you at the briefing in the 24 hours after the shooting? We heard from local law enforcement. We didn't hear from you. This is the first assassination attempt on a sitting president in 43 years, and you don't communicate with the American public. And
Wait, what? It's not. Trump is not a sitting president. He's a former president running for president. He's not a sitting president.
President in 43 years. This is the first assassination attempt on a sitting president in 43 years, and you don't communicate with the American public. And the first time we hear from you is in an ABC News interview where you defiantly say, I'm not stepping down. And the reason you give that no one was on that roof, the reason you give is that the building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. We made the decision to secure the building from inside, taking into fact security of Secret Service agents. Give me a break. What about the security of the President of the United States? You can stand on a sloped roof. I walked into the White House every day and saw one of your agents on that sloped roof. Done with excuses. Go before Congress.
The President of the United States is currently Biden. Again, former president. it almost feels like this was recorded in like the future or something, because how she's speaking is odd.
Every day and saw one of your agents on that sloped roof. Done with excuses.
And also, guys, keep in mind the Secret Service agent was in fact also on a sloped roof at a similar pitch. So, what the head of the Secret Service is actually saying is ridiculous.
Go before Congress.
I spoke to Secret Service agents. All of their training is on sloped roofs. That defense was nonsense.
Yeah.
Mark
There we
Thiessen,
go.
your thoughts?
It reminds me what Donald Trump said in the debate, that Biden never fires anybody. Nobody got fired for the debacle in Afghanistan. Nobody's gotten fired for the border disaster. And now apparently nobody's going to get fired for failing to protect the president of the United States. It's a microcosm of everything that's wrong with the Biden presidency.
Can I just add one thing, Emily?
What?
Nancy Mace, Congresswoman, just told me last hour that she had just gotten off the phone with the chairman of Oversight, James Comer. They now know from the delays from the United States Secret Service to come to the Hill, they keep delaying the hearings. They now know that Kimberly Cheadle is not going to, under her own volition, come in. They fully anticipate by today having to subpoena her.
Oh, guys, that last part was an interesting one. Maybe these were like positive, maybe these are like affirmations or something, right? But listen, I literally only care about the facts, right? And the facts are, they don't coincide with what they were saying at the end here. It was weird, guys, how they delivered that at least. But guys, does she need to go? Referring to the head of the Secret Service currently? Yeah, she needs to go, bro. Right. I didn't know that Biden never fired anyone. Guys, didn't really know that at all. But does it surprise me? No, because he's not running anything anyway. Right? Just to be honest here, I don't think he has the full capability to actually, I don't know, hold a sandwich, guys. But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.